How does one become the President of the United States? People go and vote, but it's not that simple. In the US, it's not enough to get the majority of the popular vote. The candidate has to win states that have a high number of Electoral College votes. Twice in the past 24 years, the candidate who got the most votes did not become president. Why? Because the candidates could not muster a majority in the Electoral College. Confused? Let me explain. Every 4 years, Americans vote to choose their president. While the popular vote decides the president and vice president, it needs to be confirmed by the 538-member Electoral College. What is this Electoral College? In the US, when people vote in an election, they are voting for a group of people called electors. These electors are selected by political parties in each state, and their sole role is to vote in the Electoral College to confirm the winner. After casting their vote in the Electoral College, electors have no further official duties. The number of electors a state has in the US is calculated based on the state's population plus 2 senators. This number changes from state to state. For example, California is the most populous state and it has 54 electors, that is 52 representatives plus 2 senators. Smaller states like Wyoming has 1 representative plus 2 senators, so has a total of 3 electors. Of the 50 states, 48 follow a winner-takes-all system. In this system, once the votes are counted, the candidate that gets the most votes in a state gets all of that state's electoral votes. For example, if the Democratic Party gets more votes than the Republican Party in California, all of California's 54 electoral votes go to the Democrats. 2 states, Maine and Nebraska, use a proportional system where the number of electors awarded depend on the votes secured by each candidate. Like this, the country selects 538 electors and they form the Electoral College. Now that I've explained how the Electoral College works, let's move on to the other factors. Primaries and caucuses. Each political party first needs to choose its candidate to contest the presidential election. That selection is done through primaries and caucuses. Primaries are elections within each political party to select their preferred candidate. Delegates from each party, after several preliminary votes, finally choose their presidential candidate at the National Convention. Caucuses are more like a community meeting where party members gather in groups to discuss and show support for their preferred candidate. Instead of a private ballot, they often raise hands or stand in designated areas to indicate their choice. Some states have either primary or caucuses, others have a mix of both. In the National Convention, the presidential nominee also names their vice presidential pick. The home run begins once each party picks its candidate. The Republican and Democratic parties have dominated US politics since 1852, and this year is no different. We have Kamala Harris from the Democratic Party and Donald Trump from the Republican Party. Between September and October, the candidates debate on TV, hold rallies, meet voters, and appear in commercials. These campaigns give voters a chance to know about the candidates' views on political, economic, and social issues and helps them decide who should become the next president. The general election is held on the first Tuesday in November. But here's something unique. Voters can start voting early in most states. Also, if someone cannot vote in person because they were unwell or traveling, they can actually use the absentee voting option or vote by mail. That is, in some states, all registered voters automatically receive a mail-in ballot at their home before an election, whether they request it or not. In other states, voters must specifically request a mail-in ballot if they want to vote by mail. If a registered voter in a state with automatic mailing does not vote, they still receive the ballot, but it is up to them to fill it out and return it. But many people wait until election day to vote. Now comes the counting of votes. The US has no single way to handle voting and counting. It varies by state. Some states count early votes before election day and release the results quickly, while others count all votes together after the polls close. This can stretch the counting process to even a few weeks. The Electoral College confirmation happens in mid-December. It's a formality as the voting by electors needs to reflect the preference of the popular vote in each state. If in a rare occurrence an elector or a group of electors try to vote against popular mandate, some states have laws that impose fines and even criminal charges against them. Now, what happens if no candidate can touch the magic figure of 270? In that case, the House of Representatives chooses the next president and the Senate picks the vice president. The new US president is sworn in on January 20 and the term starts at noon. The ceremony is presided over by the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court and is attended by former presidents. It is a tradition for the outgoing president to walk the new president to the White House before the oath of office. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how the new president of the United States takes charge.